So this is our fifth tutorial for QGIS. This is probably going to be the last one on this subject. And what we're really going to focus in on is how to get our data into Adobe Illustrator. This isn't going to take very long, so let's get started. Just a sidebar. So I've been playing around with this before I started the tutorial, and we do not want to take the this kind of overall, colorful gradient map or gradient shape file. We don't want to do this at the same time that we're doing everything else. You're going to want to export this out as its own separate entity. Or else the colors aren't going to maintain. And you're going to want to try to get it directly into Illustrator to keep the colors. And it may be worth just making a raster image of it, depending on how complex your data is. For the rest of this, we're going to take a different approach. I'm just going to turn it off for the time being. I really think everybody's going to have to, if you do these kinds of things, you're going to just have to make a raster image of it and edit it in Photoshop and just scale it over your Illustrator map, or just make its own separate diagram or whatever. So I'm not quite sure why that's not turning off. It should be. You know what? I don't really care. Anyway, so the rest of this we're going to create a workflow for. Workflow is something that we talk about in my job a lot. What we do there sometimes is we go from program to program to program, and we try to do every step of our process in the software or application that is best suited for it. And there becomes kind of an art to it or science to it, because you always want to you don't want to have to go back in and redo things if possible. So you want this process to be as smooth as you can get it. And not all of these applications communicate well with one another or will accept files well from one another. Our workflow on this is going to be pretty simple. We've created a bunch of clip shape files to for this area right here. We're going to put those shape files in Map 3D. I know that it seems kind of counterintuitive to go from one GIS mapping program to another GIS mapping program, but the reason why we're going to do that is it's going to import these shape files in flawlessly, and then it's going to allow us to export a DWG. And then the DWG, we can either edit it as an AutoCAD file, which you probably will want to do just a little bit, or we can just take it straight to Illustrator, and you can maintain all of your layers and all of your colors if you want the colors that are in there. So that's going to be your workflow. We're going to go from QGIS to Map 3D to AutoCAD to Illustrator. And now that might sound complicated, but it's really not going to take that long. So I've already saved all my files here in QGIS. I just had it up to kind of introduce this topic. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it out. Sure, why not? So let me close that out. So in Map 3D, all the tutorials that I've given you so far have showed a much more complicated process, and it was that way for a reason. This is going to go a lot quicker. So I'm going to connect to data, and we're going to do just like we've done already in here. We're going to go to the folder. You don't want to select just the shape file, and you'll see why in just a moment. And then we're going to find the folder where we've stored all of our data. Now you'll notice that, well, you probably won't notice it in this one, but if I went to that folder, I saved all of these things. I didn't put them in their own special folders. And I'd said I did that for a reason in the tutorial part when I showed you how to do that, and this is the reason. I was kind of thinking about this, doing this ahead of time, and the reason is that if they're not in their own separate folders, I can use that parent folder as a directory, and it'll upload all of those clip shape files at the same time. So I just select that folder, I click connect. It's going to take it a second. There may be a couple times in this process where the computer is going to slow down. So just bear with me. We're going to try to get through this just as fast as we can. So it's thinking, if it takes too much longer, I'll pause the video, but I don't really want to do that because then I have to edit it. So okay, so there's everything that we had. I'm going to import all of these into Map 3D. It's as simple as clicking them. Now you might ask how come I didn't do this to begin with. Let me talk about that as it imports these, because it'll take a while. The only thing I'm not going to bring in are these vacancies in the vacancy clip, because like I said, I really think you want to take a different approach to that. You lose all the nice stuff when you bring them into Map 3D, so that's not an option here. So I'm just gonna, now that I have all those selected, I'm going to click Add to Map, and it's just going to take a while. So while it does that, while it chugs through all of that, let's talk about why I didn't do this in the first tutorial for Map 3D, where I created every GIS file that I downloaded, I created a separate folder for instead of just having a root directory like I set up here. And the reason for that is because these are clipped files, so they're a lot smaller than just say the building footprint file. That file's huge, and it's probably smaller than all the rest of these, or it's probably larger than all the rest of these files put together. And so you can see now it's almost done. If I had put that data, in one root directory, all those different files, and you tried to do what we just did here, I sincerely doubt that your computer would have gotten through that process without falling flat on its face. So I just didn't think that, unless you're running like some top-of-the-line workstation, with like 16 cores and 32 threads or something like that, and Quadro video cards or something like that. I just didn't think that we would be able to do that, or most people's computers would be able to do that. So that's why I didn't show it. So there was some logic behind it. So I don't want you to think that I was just wasting your time. So this is all done. I'm going to close it out. Now we have a really ugly map here. It's not showing us anything. And the reason is that it's all the layers didn't preserve as well when it came over. Now I could go ahead and clean all this up, but I'm not going to on this one, and the reason why I'm not going to on this one is because I did it on another one. So this is the exact same layers. This is everything. It's just a lot cleaner, and this took about 15 minutes to do, so that's 15 minutes that I didn't want to be making a video showing you how to move a layer and trim a layer and change the color, because you should know how to do that by now. And if you don't, then there's a tutorial that I put out that's available to show you how to do that. This by itself I think looks fairly good. I mean, we could tweak it a little bit, but I'm in a hurry. I really want to get it to Illustrator. I think we're probably going to do most of our post-production editing in Illustrator anyway, so changing a hatch to be a slightly different shade when we're just going to go ahead and redo that again in Illustrator, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. One thing I'll bring up at this point is that you might think about setting up a query, just like we did in the Map 3D tutorial, and really like honing in on your site. And when you do that, I would try to stay kind of like on the center line of a road. Like if I were doing it, if I wanted to spend the time doing it, I would draw a polygon up this kind of angled road, which is, or I'd actually slide over here just a little bit and hit the interstate. But I would really try to avoid drawing my polygon through these buildings. And the reason is that if these things remain closed polylines, which they are right now, and they will be when we import them into AutoCAD 3D, and as long as you don't, excuse me, AutoCAD, and as long as you don't trim them, they'll remain a closed line in Illustrator. If you maintain that closed relationship, then you can quickly, like really quickly, change your hatches for anything that's a closed line. I may show you that with a different file. I'm not going to take the time to clean this one up, at least not right now, not for this tutorial. So we're going to just kind of take this one as it is. So in order to do that, we do need to get it to AutoCAD. So I'm going to go through that process. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. So you know, this was all in that PDF tutorial that I sent out. If I had a little bit more time, I might make a video tutorial for it, but the PDF tutorial should be pretty easy to follow. And we're just trying to get a decent AutoCAD file out of this. So I'm just going to name this assignment 2A. And just call it a day at that. From there, we just kind of go next. This is going to take a little time. You know, I am going to pause the video because it's just going to take too much time to be sitting here talking. So as soon as it gets done, I'll start it back up. Okay, I'm back. That didn't take that long, actually. It only took about 6 minutes. So I also started up AutoCAD because that's our next step in the process. Now you want to make sure that you actually start up AutoCAD and not just go find your file and try to open it that way, because if you do it that way, it's going to open in Map 3D and you're just going to have to close it back out and then go open AutoCAD and follow this procedure. So you open AutoCAD and you select this open folder, and then you find your file, and my file's right here, so you open it. It's going to give you these warnings about educational products, and you just click continue until it starts to load. Now we can see our file. If you haven't worked in Map 3D yet, this is really the nice thing about Map 3D is that I have the same map that I made in Map 3D, only I now have it in AutoCAD, which it's a lot easier to edit things, but I have all of these layers, the exact same layers that I created in AutoCAD 3D, or in Map 3D. If you didn't draw your polygon in Map 3D and clip that data out, maybe your file was too big or whatever, now's the time to do it. We want to do it before we go to Illustrator. I'm not going to do it, you know, because this isn't going to be my final file. But if you're getting ready now or whenever you watch this tutorial to start creating your final product that you're going to display on Monday, then you want to get rid of anything that you don't want on this before you bring it into Illustrator. And I'm just going to reiterate this. I know I just said it a second ago, but you want to maintain these closed polylines. It makes your Adobe abilities so much more powerful. And I'll try to show that to you before we close off, because we're really almost done here. The only thing I have to do in here, that since I'm not clipping or trimming this stuff out and deleting this stuff, is I have to save this down to AutoCAD 2004 version. That's just so I can import it into Adobe Why 2004? I don't know. I just know it works. And it won't work if you don't do this step. Maybe it would work in 2007. It doesn't matter to me because I'm not going to lose any. I don't lose anything, but there's no difference between 2004 and 2007. And I just know this one's going to work. And that's that's what I wanted to do at this point. So I don't even need to close that out. I'm just going to open up Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to open that file now in Adobe Illustrator. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to make sure I'm in whatever size format I want it to be in. So if you wanted to do an 11 by 17 presentation, then you would put that in there or make sure that's in there. Let's say you wanted to do 24 by 36, you could put that in there right now. The reason why you're doing it right now is because when you open this file, it's going to automatically set your drawing size um, to the size of the last drawing that you opened or that you started in Adobe Illustrator, and that's going to become important for scaling purposes in just a moment. So you don't even have to close that out. You just come over here, you select open, and then you go find your file. All formats is selected, but if you wanted to filter that a little bit, you could just go to AutoCAD DWG. You do not want DXF. You want AutoCAD DWG. So that's my AutoCAD file. I'm going to select open, and then a dialog box is going to come up. Now, if I put it in original size, it's going to be way too big. You're going to scale it down. It's going to be a one-to-one relationship. I don't want to do that. I want to click Scale to Fit Artboard, and this is that step. This is why we did the previous step where we made sure our artboard was the right size. I want my map to just fit on it. I don't want to have to worry about scaling it up and scaling it down. So I'm just selecting this. We're not using it on this one, but this layout here. If we had drawn this in a layout in AutoCAD. Let me just show you that real quick. If you would come in here and created like a sheet and put it on here and it was all perfectly sized and everything ahead of time, then you could select layout on here. There'd be an option for you, and it would pull in some of those things. It doesn't work as well as I would like it to, but it works well enough. So that's just something you might want, just a FYI kind of thing. Definitely make sure merge layers is not selected. The whole point of doing this is so that our layers are not merged. And I can't imagine why I would ever want the layers to be merged. So just make sure that's not on. From there we hit OK. It's going to take it a second, a minute or two. Shouldn't be too bad. Illustrator and AutoCAD actually talk to one another pretty well in terms of in relation to other programs. So there we are. It looks like it may have brought this in at a scale bigger than my artboard, which is kind of disappointing since I selected scale to artboard, but it shouldn't be too bad. No, it fit on the artboard. It just zoomed me in for some reason. So now I have my map that I did in QGIS. I have all my layers, with the exception of that last kind of, graduated evaluation that we did. And you would need to find another way to bring that in, which I would recommend a raster. So I have all of that. I have all my layers. I can turn them on or turn them off. I can arrange them just like you have all of your normal Adobe functionality in this, and that's why the workflow was important to do it this way. There may be another way to get to here. I don't know. I just, I've really been thinking that this is how I was going to do it since I first set out to do these tutorials. So I'm really pleased that it worked, because sometimes it doesn't behave the way that you want it to. But I'm kind of glad that it did. And you remember that I said that you should, while you're in AutoCAD, you should trim up all the things that you want to trim. I don't know about you, but for me, trying to trim a line or trim a hatch in Adobe Illustrator is just way harder than it would be in AutoCAD. Um, I've been using AutoCAD for 10 years now, though, so that I mean, maybe you're more comfortable in Illustrator and it's just easier for you. So, um, my preference is definitely to do it in AutoCAD, and then all of this stuff would be gone, and it would just be really easy. I did promise you that I'd show you how these closed polylines work real quick. I um, I'm kind of debating bringing in another file. No, it shouldn't take too long. I'm just going to use these building. I'm going to turn everything else off. So, it doesn't work. That sucks. Just, oops, I wanted my buildings on. So, once I get all these turned off, I'm just going to select some buildings to show you. I think that's good enough. Now, I think the program's a little frozen right now, so I'm just going to give it a second. These little blue buttons over here, if you're not familiar with it, you can select them, and they will select every vector that's on that layer. So normally that's how I would do this, but I have some buildings which are not going to be closed polylines because I didn't trim these ones that I had referenced over here off. So actually, I don't know why it's not. I don't even care. As long as it doesn't freeze up. So if you had trimmed all these things up, you could just literally come over here to buildings, click on this button, and then select all your buildings for what I'm about to do. I'm just going to drag a box and select some of them that I know will all be closed polylines. It's going to take it a second. So now that I have those selected, I can change the hatch on them really quickly, or the fill on them. Or sorry, not that, or the stroke. If I wanted to change the stroke, I could change the stroke on them really quickly. And this is kind of the power of using these closed polylines. So you could do the same thing with your curves layer, except you would set up a live paint group and keep your clipping polygon, whatever you use, and you could go in and you could literally draw the roads for this thing in 30 seconds. So this, if you've thought out your process and you've been disciplined and you keep your polylines closed, and you get rid of all the stuff that you don't need, and you make sure it's all set up properly. When you get to this step, you can move really, really quickly, which is nice. So I may do a better tutorial on that sometime down the road. I've shown a couple of the other students in my section it, and they didn't know about it, so I'm assuming it wasn't shown. It was shown to me in my second year by my studio professor. So some people may know this, or they just may know how it works because they've used Illustrator a lot or have a high working knowledge of it. But the point is that you can do a lot of like diagramming and things like that, and set up these maps pretty quickly and pretty efficiently in Illustrator if you just stay disciplined and set your file up properly. And with that, I'm done for the night, and this tutorial is done. So I'm gonna stop it now and load it up there, and I hope they're helpful. And if you have any questions, send me an email, and I'll try to answer.